Hello, my name is Burstream, and I'm here to talk about my favorite deck, and that is Chaos Dragons. When people think about what decks are viable in the current meta, they overlook older decks like Chaos Dragons. I find this to be rather unfortunate for the deck. Chaos Dragons is an older deck that has fallen to the wayside, but I believe time has been good toward the deck, and it was allowed to grow and adapt, and in some ways get stronger due to new additions and changes on the limited list and ban list as well. The deck is explosive, very versatile, obviously able to OTK, and has very effective effects against the current meta, namely banishing effects. This guide is to present the style of the deck, its strengths, weaknesses, and in my opinion, what is the best strategy moving forward. So without further ado, I'm going to show you guys a skeleton of the deck. It consists of 24 monsters and 8 spells that I believe you should be running. But this isn't the end-all be-all toward the deck. This is just kind of my opinion on what's really good for the deck, what's a solid foundation, and then on my next video I'll show you the support cards and the extra deck that you should fill out your deck with in order to make the best Chaos Dragon you can make. Alright, so let's talk about strategy first of Chaos Dragons. So Chaos Dragons revolves around light and dark. So what we do with Chaos Dragons is basically we mill cards from the top of our deck to the graveyard in order to set up future Chaos special summons. These different monsters will banish, are great beaters, and essentially will OTK and overpower your opponent. We use rank 6 Exceed and level 8 Synchros to the fullest extent, as they're very easy to make without losing card advantage due to the mini dragons. The deck runs no traps and no defensive spells, and it allows the deck to obviously not run any back row. So if any decks that are running MST against you, it's essentially a dead card when they face you. So it does give you an edge definitely in battle. Hand traps are used to pick up the slack and to hinder your opponent until your next explosive turn. The deck must set up the graveyard in order to make plays. This is a big thing about Chaos Dragons. Obviously, you must remove a light and a dark in order to special summon, whether it's a Chaos Sorcerer, Black Luster, or a Chaos Dragon, so you must have your graveyard ready to go. This makes the single normal summon each turn very important in order to put the deck in a good position. Spells must bring the same effect to the table in order to alleviate the importance of the normal summon. So with cards like Charge of the Light Brigade, Reinforcement of the Army to get that raid in, there's more precedent to run a decent Lightsworn engine, along with Solar Recharge to set up the graveyard and to speed up the deck. That's one of the strategies, and probably one of the more superior one at the moment, but there's still a lot of ways to go here. The thing about the deck though, it's strong, banish effects are very powerful, and it's able to OTK your opponent, so it always can turn the tide in a duel. The thing is, the deck itself has trouble gaining advantage on its own. The only way it can plus, in a sense, is via Eclipse Wyvern getting milled. It'll banish a Dark Arm or a Red Eyes, and you'll get that back once you summon a Chaos monster. So it's very hard for it to gain advantage on its own. All its effects are based on your opponent. Destroy 3 cards, banish one of your opponent's cards. So you can plus by summoning a monster, but it is relying on your opponent to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And put cards on the field so you can get rid of them. I like going second, even though we have to set up the graveyard, because obviously since the deck can't plus on its own, any extra cards or any advantage you might have to go off in a duel is very important. And it is an offensive deck, so you'd want to go second so you can, banish your opponent's cards or play very aggressive so you can go against them, rather than kind of waiting on that first turn or doing something small and then waiting for your opponent to go and then you to go again. So second is good for the deck. The reason I really like Chaos Dragons is all these powerful cards like Dark Arm, like Black Luster. These are cards that been here a long time, and they're very powerful. They're limited at 1, and you get to use them all in this deck, and the deck is a lot of fun. That's probably the biggest thing about it, at least for me. So let's go into the skeleton of the deck. This is, like I said, a foundation. 24 monsters, 8 spells for 32 cards, giving you 8 to 9 spots, depending on your style, to fill in for the deck. And obviously, once we go into the support video, you'll see the other choices that you can make in order to make a good deck. So let's start off with the big 3 here. We have Black Luster Soldier, Dark Arm Dragon, and Darkness Metal. You get to run all 3. All 3 are 1, and they're all really good cards. Remove a Light in the Dark to banish any monster on the field. Attack twice if you destroy a monster, which is fantastic. Dark Arm, when there are 3 darks, you get to special summon him. you get to remove a dark and destroy any card on the field. So mass removal, it's a really good card. And then of course we have Red Eyes Darkness Metal. Lets you special summon any dragon from your graveyard, whether it's Light Pulsar, Dark Flare, or Dragon Synchro. Bring him back with Red Eyes Darkness. And it really works well with Light Pulsar, of course. 3 cards you must run, all run at 1, please. Alright, so let's go into 2 Chaos Sorcerer. The next 2 cards in the deck, obviously the 2 Chaos Monsters that are outside of Blackluster. Spot Removal, 2300 beater, rank 6, remove a Light in the Dark to banish, and then its effect is you can banish 1 face of monster on the field. Simple. 2, because you can only run 2, and its banishing effects are fantastic. We'll see a lot of it in this deck, and they're good for a reason. You get to banish that Shaddoll Fusion, you get to banish anything so it doesn't hit the the extra deck in terms of Pendulum monsters or the graveyard to get its effects. Run 2, rank 6. Alright, now we go into 2 Chaos the Shadow Monarch. So for Chaos to be run, obviously it's a tribute monster, so you're going to have to be tributing monsters. And obviously with the monsters that we have in the deck, it works really well. The mini dragons, when tributed, sent to the graveyard from the field, you get to add the counterpart to the hand. So this guy's always technically a free summon. You'll sacrifice black to get white. Chaos's effect will trigger. And yes, another banishing effect. Fills in our dark monster quota. And rank 6. You'll see a lot of rank 6, especially in the support video, about the deck, about the different cards you can special summon, about the different things you can do. 2400 attack is nothing to scoff at. Very good card in the deck. Alright, next. 2 Dark Flare Dragon and 3 Light Pulsars. This is probably the best combination of the 2 and 3. With Dark Flare, if you run 1, you might not see it too often. If you run 3, it might get too cloggy, so 2 is a good number for it. Light Pulsar always max out at 3. You'll always be happy to see him, whether he's milled or whether he's in your hand. So let's start with Dark Flare. Dark Flare's effect, you can send 1 dragon monster from your hand to the graveyard to send 1 monster from your deck to the graveyard. This is a cost. Both sending from your hand and the deck is the cost, so it gets over things like Effect Veiler, Breakthrough, stuff like that. Its effect is you can then select any card in the graveyard, either player's graveyard, and banish it. So it gets rid of a key card while setting up your graveyard, banishing like a Necros spell or a Shaddoll spell, or something else that might trigger if it's still in the graveyard. 2400 attack, level 5, dark, fills your quota, and obviously works well with Light Pulsar because you can special summon Dark Flare when Light Pulsar is destroyed. Both cards are special summoned by removing 1 light, 1 dark monster from the graveyard. Light Pulsar has a second effect, or second inherent summon, that if it's in the graveyard, you can send a light and a dark from your hand to special summon it from the graveyard. So it fills up your graveyard with monsters, so you can fill up that dark and light and move forward and like that. So with the 2, they work really well with Red Eyes Darkness Metal, special summon Red Eyes Darkness Metal, summon Light Pulsar. You get like a soft lock going because if Darkness Metal gets destroyed, then Light Pulsar gets destroyed, you'll bring back Darkness Metal, special summon Light Pulsar, kind of keep going in a little loop there. All very good cards. Rank 6 Light Pulsar works well with the other ones for those summons, and Dark Flare obviously helps the deck a lot. Alright, now we move into the mini dragon. So let's go with 3 of each. Okay, and 1 Eclipse Wyvern. So the reason we want 3 of each, because they work so well with each other. You'll always be milling cards, so even if you send 1 or 2 to the graveyard, you still have the other set to go. So if you get rid of 1, you can go 1. You can move in, you can use it for your advantage. They work great for synchro summoning. They work great for tributing for Chaos or for Light Pulsar if you got to get them on the field or something like that. They work really well. Beaters, 1700, 1800, light and dark. You just gotta run them at 3. There's no reason not to. Eclipse Wyvern, we only run 2 targets, Dark Armed and Darkness Metal. So we only run 1 Eclipse Wyvern for that target. So if it's milled or you send it via Dark Flare's effect, you'll trigger it for those 2 cards and you get them on. One of the very few ways this deck pluses. So what I like to say is, in a perfect world, I would run 2 Eclipse Wyvern and a 3rd target, so we can kind of plus more on our own and kind of go with that. But for the meantime, we can go with 1 for the 2 targets that we do have. All right, moving on. Now we go to the heart of the deck mostly. To set it up, we have the 3 Raiden Hand of the Lightsworn. This is a card that's match made in heaven for Chaos Dragons. It was well hyped for the deck back in the day. Level 4, 1700 attack, warrior, tuner, Charger Light Brigade, reinforcement of the army. Fills are light, is level 4. So this really works well with the mini dragons for those level 8 synchros. You'll sync with 1, get the counterpart, and special summon that one. So you're always very aggressive and always getting cards. Mill 2 in the mid in your main phase. So you get to mill cards, you get to see them. You get to fill that light and dark. If you're missing a dark or missing a light, those 2 cards will probably fill it up. And you do that early. Cards like Lila or Curry Bandit, which kind of do it at the end phase. Well, your turn is over. Now it's your opponent's turn. Now you kind of passed your turn without doing anything. This one lets you do it in the mid-turn. As well, since you'll be milling 2 cards here, you'll be summoning one of these guys and then sinking. Well, you got one light here. Well, what if it was a black dragon? You have a light and a dark ready to go and a level 8 synchro on board. And you search for the counterpart dragon. So it's very good. Very good. We run 3. The best card here. And then the last 2, 24 monsters, skeleton, is Card Trooper. You run 2 Card Trooper because you can only run 2 Card Trooper. And this is the only card I recommend to run that is not a light or a dark, just because you always want to be milling those 2 attributes. Card Trooper, level 3. 400 attack. Its effect, you can send any number of cards 1 through 3 from the top of your deck to the graveyard in order to increase its attack by 500 for each card. So it's a 1900 beater. With its effect, you get to mill 3 cards, and when it's destroyed by card effect or battle and sent to the graveyard from the field, you get to draw a card. So not only does it get your deck going, it sets you up for your next turn. When destroyed, you get to draw that card, and then you draw again for your turn. So you see more cards faster, you mill cards to set up your graveyard, and it's a beater. So if someone summons Thunder King Ryo or something that you just got to get over with Card Trooper, you attack. Cards that destroy, obviously they're going to hold back, because if they destroy Card Trooper, well, you get to draw a card. They're floating, so Card Trooper is a very good card. Run 2. Alright, so that's 24 monsters. Let's move on to the spells here. Let's start off with 1 reinforcement of the army. You run 3 Raiden, and that's probably the only warriors you should be running at the moment. And I believe 1 is more than enough for that. You want to see them. You want to see him more often, whether it's for summoning or whatever have you. 1 seems to be just enough. 1 Allure of Darkness. We're running half the deck is dark, so why not run Allure of Darkness? Draw 2 cards, remove 1 dark, get rid of a dead card, see more cards. It's 1, you run 1. Probably the best card in the deck, obviously, for this deck. 2 Charge of the Light Brigade. Mill 3 cards. Send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard, and already I love the effect. You get to search the Lightsworn, Raiden. Since we have 3 Raidens, obviously we run 2, and then that 3rd reinforcement to kind of see the other one. We'll be milling cards, so maybe one of these will get milled, reinforcement or something else will get milled. So it fits fine with 3. If you feel like you want to run another Lightsworn in the support video, I'll mention it, but probably Lila will be the only one you might want to run for your Lightsworn engine in a sense. Next, we have 2 the Monarch Stormforth. And the reason I like this card is, let's talk about the card itself. It doesn't target. You tribute one of your opponent's monster face up or face down, so it's removal. It's sent to the graveyard, so it's a really good effect. So you can get something pesky off the field. You run 7 tribute monsters, 3 Light Pulsar, 2 Dark Flare, and 2 Chaos in the deck. You also have Red Eyes as well, if you want to do 2 tributes, I guess, in a sense. And it just really works well to get your monsters on the field. If you can't get that Dark Flare in the field and you have a handful of Chaos Dragons, well, get him on the field, use its effect, banish, send Eclipse Wyvern, banish something, summon something else now that you got cards in the field in your graveyard, and then you get that card back. So it's an enabler, it gets you going too, and it works against other decks, tributing and stuff like that. Really good card. I would suggest 2. And yeah, works well. And then the last 2 cards are 2 Mystical Space Typhoons. I still think Mystical Space Typhoon is the spell and trap card removal you should be running. Galaxy Cyclone is a good card, but the thing that differentiates both of them is that Mystical Space Typhoon is quick play. You can respond to your opponent's cards, whether it's him flipping a face-up vanities or something else. You can just hold this in your hand, go off with your effects, make him activate trap cards with your monster effects, and then if you see that pesky continuous whatever, you just Mystical Space Typhoon it, or if there's one card face down, you just do it that. Galaxy Cyclone is a good card, and that's going to be one of my support cards, but right now there's no reason to run Galaxy or Mystical Space Typhoon because Galaxy relies on your opponent a little bit too much. Let's say they have one card face down and you draw into your turn and they flip over or lose one turn. Well, you just drew that Galaxy Cyclone. Well, I can't destroy it because I don't have a target and I can't get it to the graveyard, so I can use a secondary effect to destroy a face-up spell or trap. So it's kind of just dead in my hand until he decides to put something face down because I don't have any face downs to get this card going. Obviously, I can discard it in a way, but with Mystical Space Typhoon, whether it was face up or face down, it'd be gone by now, and I'd be going off. Galaxy Cyclone is still a good card to side, just because the fact that in the Quill Form matchup, if you side in that third Mystical Space Typhoon and then 2 more Galaxy Cyclone, if you start milling cards and you mill a Cyclone, you're like, great, I get to use it later, and then I get to see my Mystical Space Typhoons to destroy those pesky cards. So that's the skeleton. 24 monsters, 8 spells. That's 32 cards, giving you 8 to 9 slots depending on what to fill. The deck is a lot of fun. I recommend you running it. This is the skeleton. This is the strategy. If you guys have any questions, please leave it in the comments about the deck. The next video will be the support cards, what you should be kind of filling the remaining part of the deck with, as well as good side cards against the meta and the extra deck. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video of the Chaos Dragons. I love talking about the deck, as you can see. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. Until the next one.